having a wonderful day. Smile like we live, it's a blessing for me. Say that the dreams should be on me. Cause I'm having a wonderful day. Hey, hey, I'm having a wonderful day. Smile like we live, it's a blessing for me. Say that the dreams should be on me. Cause I'm having a wonderful day. Hey, hey.
Welcome, good people. I'm your man SRD, and welcome to Peep Game Presents Live at 5, where our goal, our mission, and our intention is to uplift fallen humanity, starting with one person, one family, one neighborhood, one city, and one state at a time. So while we are waiting for my main man 100 grand, we just going to get started. All right. So today we're supposed to be talking about relationships. And I've been married going on 24 years and still have obstacles that my wife and I still have to overcome. And one of the main obstacles is the fact that communication, the way that we communicate, that's one of the obstacles that we have to, work on. So it's so important in a relationship to learn each other's communication language. Some people say love language. And once you're able to master that, I think you'll prevent a lot of turmoil and all right, brother. I got us started, brother. So
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, rahmatullah. Already had started with the relationship, and I started with me being married, going on 24 years and still be having issues with the communication. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Still have disagreements, still have misunderstandings, based on, and we've been together all these years. And so I'm saying that to say for those who are in new relationships, at the end of the day, communication is key. If you aren't able to communicate with each other, then you're not going to be able to get past any issues or resolve any issues between the two of you. That's
Right.
that's the thing right there. So go ahead. So I just wanted to give the people that.
Yeah, it's the response. And when it comes to relationships, um, I want to cover a couple things, the responsibilities that we need to have, or we should have, or start applying in a relationship with each person, each family member, and in the household. When it comes to the spouses, we definitely have to have a clear communication that has to grow to be that. Um, when you're with a person so many years and you know each other in and out, sometimes you become silent and you don't want to respond because you know where that's gonna take, where it's gonna take each other individual. You know what I'm saying? So we don't go over these things until like maybe later on when we blow up or things like that. And that's being on the same way because you can actually, this is where you get into frequency and vibrations. You
Right.
could feel the vibrations from the other individual before you say something. And you
Yeah.
be like, you know what? I'm not even going to tap into that because I know. So I'm not going to say this. So while you listening, you going now, I could bust a bubble right now, or I could bust his bubble right now, and I could say this. So you already knowing the frequencies that's going right there. You know what I'm saying? Now, do we feel less when a person in a relationship, any individual in the household, when you're in a relationship, when do you become responsible? when is your responsibility kicks in toward contributing to the relationship with the spouse by communication and understanding? What is your responsibility? Sometimes it's like not to give response, not to give response to saying I'm nicking you off or being silent, but sometimes it's, should I respond to that now? Do I allow this? When it comes to the children, uh, do we respond to them, and how do we respond to them? Do we tap into the frequency? Do we let them tap into our frequency, or do we give them a frequency all the time? It's like a rejection, or it's like a pulse, like it's not calm, or it's like they already know. "Oh, I knew you was gonna say that anyway," or "I knew you was gonna say that." Is we saying why we're saying this? Is we elaborating on certain communications? If you telling your wife, the reason I'm saying this is because of this. It's not because of you. It's like it affects both of us. So let's see how we're both being affected by what you're saying. Is we elaborating on it, or we just taking one side to it? Like, is we just going, hey, I want you to hear me too? Is we just listening to two sides, or we finding a solution to each other, what they're expressing, so we got to weigh it in so we can move forward? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times what's happening is one person is trying to get their point across, and the other person is doing the same thing. So at the end of the day, you got two people trying to get their point across. So now your signal's getting crossed because nobody's really listening, because both people are actually trying to make their case, so to speak. So as you were saying, when do we hold ourselves responsible to say, okay, being that I know this individual fairly well, should I even respond at this time? Or should I just let this person continue saying what they got to say and just be quiet and then address it later? Because sometimes everything a person says is not warranting a response. Sometimes we actually are just venting. Sometimes
Right.
you just actually venting. You don't even want to respond. And when a person gives you a response, it throws you off because that wasn't something that you were looking forward to. You just really wanted to hear. So that's why I say with communication, we have to be more responsible with how we communicate, because if I just start venting and don't say, listen, this is something rhetorical. I don't really want you to answer me. I just want to hear how it sounds. It's been in my head and I want to just say it. I don't really need a response from you, please. And start doing that. Because,
Right.
like you said, we have to find solutions to prevent problems from continuing to reoccur. And that's something I'm still working on. I'm still working on becoming better at that, because a lot of times, my wife may say something. Sometimes I cannot say anything. You know what I mean? And other times I strive to address her by saying, look, say what you mean. Don't just say something to me and then expect that I'm going to know exactly what you're talking about
Right.
when you already know it's something else you're fishing for, but I don't know. So just tell me, look, I feel this type of way. So now I know that these words are coming from is based on how you feel rather than what you're thinking. Thinking and feeling things is different. You're thinking something, you can kind of, all right, this is just a thought. But if you're feeling something, it can get embedded. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well,
It can
that's
be
that's
embedded.
that's why you got to be careful when they're expressing feelings, emotional feelings behind what they say. Actually, I got to give a lot of credit to my wife, because she taught me how to accept those emotions that's being expressed, whether they were good or not good. because she used to say this a lot to me. Bae, I want to say something, but I don't want you to say anything.
Well,
You
perfect example
understand?
of what I said. Perfect
Right.
example.
So at that time, I'm going, okay. So sometimes I want to respond to it, but then I'm going, hold it. If she's expressing this, now I'm aware of it, but it's not even for me to go back and go, well, you said this, because if you're
Right,
sharing that to me, I want you to trust me that you can share that with me. Now
right.
you got to work
Absolutely.
it out until you come to me and say what you think.
There
That's
you
a
go.
whole different scenario. You
Absolutely.
understand? But when
There you
she
go.
go, babe, I want to say something, but I don't want you to say nothing. And I go,
Perfect. That's perfect.
I sign the contract and go, all right,
Yeah,
go ahead. I won't
yeah.
say nothing.
But that's perfect. And see, that's exactly what I was talking about. That's where me and my wife have trouble at. She'll say a thing, but then later on, later in the conversation, after we done went through some turmoil, then she'll say, "Oh, that's what I was feeling." You know what I mean?
Right.
Let me know ahead of time so then I don't overreact and we can keep the peace. And that's what we have to work on. You know what I mean? So I'm letting the people out there know that if you're in an early relationship, things are gonna happen,
Right.
especially with back and forth. You're gonna get angry, they're gonna get angry. Sometimes it's best to just hold your tongue. Hold your tongue and don't say anything, especially when you're angry. Because when you're angry, now it's about you're angry and more than likely you're hurt. You're
Because you
impaired.
already got an objective of what you're
Right,
gonna say.
right.
So you're already going, I know he's gonna say this,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't
So,
want to hear that. You feel
right.
me?
So you already going in on something that's not going to make the situation better, only going to ignite a
Only gonna
bigger
ignite
problem.
it.
You know
And
what I mean?
this is the same, we have to exercise the same exercise when it comes to the children. You understand? Because a lot of times, like nowadays, they have more observation of many things because they're online. They have their phone. They're being introduced to a lot more things than we were being introduced to. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So they not saying they indulging in it or anything, but we have to, in order to communicate with them, and this is the key thing. We can't cut them off and just let them hear us. We have to start listening to them. We have to
Absolutely.
see what position they're putting themselves in daily. And we have to start listening and going, okay, now I'm gonna give you a solution. When it comes to them, I'm not saying be silent all the time and let them go that, because we have to teach them. We have to, because they might be in a place they don't really understand and they think they can comprehend it and they think they have it. And you can know for sure when they start speaking to you, you be like, okay, they handling that pretty well. So I'm gonna let them handle that. And then you just say, well, look, if you need my advice or you need something,
I'm
I'm
there
gonna
for
give
you.
you. That's
Right.
gonna allow them to, when they're in a relationship, to give that also right for a person to speak and for them to speak. But when we start cutting them off and they start growing up like that, or they not saying nothing, because you know how we grow up, like, don't you say nothing. We like,
Right, right.
I don't want to
And
say nothing. And
which
that's what we
which
do. We like,
right.
don't say nothing. I don't want to hear it.
Which wasn't the healthiest way to raise your children.
No,
And
it was
to because what you did is didn't let them express themselves, so they had to walk around with those emotions. Like we had
it
to walk around with those emotions in the house.
exactly.
You know what I mean? And a lot of times what happened is we would leave out the house with those emotions. And now we interact in those emotions out in the street or whoever we're around.
Or to
Which
somebody else to say, I can't talk in the house. They won't let me say nothing. I'm trying to explain something to them.
right,
So now this is another leeway out. Now you don't know what's going on. You have no idea what's happening, and you're in a totally blind. Now you're blaming each other. The spouses is blaming each other for a communication error that we got by habit. And we didn't sit down and acknowledge that each person has a right. And because we have different opinions doesn't mean we're enemy. Because I
right,
have a different opinion about what you said don't mean I'm coming down on you. It's just an
Absolutely.
opinion of what I think about the situation, and that's it. Now, if it's harmful, of course, you want to guide a person away from harmness, and you want to give them warnings about, like, if you do that, that could be a repercussion. Did you think about this? Did you think about this? Because you might be jumping into that by desire, emotion, and not giving it a lot of thought. So you sharing your thoughts and being like, okay, what do you think? A lot of us say, don't say nothing because we don't want nobody to reject what we're saying. We don't want your opinion if you're going to reject this ideal. So if the ideal is harmful, what we usually do, we jump in and go, that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea.
Right.
Why I ask you not to say nothing? The reason why I'm saying it is because right there, it's a bad idea. I can't just listen at this point because now it's going to reflect this and that. So let me correct that before you go too far because you're emotionally attached. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it's like the kids, they come in and be like, I want to go here, but I know you're going to say no. You know what I'm saying? But look where you want to go and what do it entails. You can go, but can you follow these guidelines? Can you,
Yeah.
if I listen to you and allow that, can I also stipulate my rules and regulations that apply to that? So it's a
Yeah.
50-50 thing. You understand?
Yeah. Basically, can I trust you to adhere to the boundaries that are being set for your protection? Basically,
Exactly.
it's for your protection. And that's what we want to be able to make clear, that whenever we set boundaries, it's not to restrain an individual, it's to protect them,
It's to
especially our
protect them.
children,
Right.
especially our wives and significant others. We want to protect you.
And
So,
sometimes it's protecting them from themselves.
right, protecting them, right. Because listen, we all go through things in life and we all want a lot of times something that is not healthy for us, but we want it.
Right.
And anybody who's watching can bear witness to that there are things that they've done, that you've done, that you knew wasn't healthy, or you found out later wasn't healthy for you, wasn't good for you, because you wanted to do it. I mean, we can go with that with just foods that we eat. Certain foods we know, if we got,
I'm guilty for that one,
we
bro.
got high blood pressure or something like
Don't
that,
fry
or
no chicken in front of
diabetes,
me.
right? And we don't supposed to eat certain things, we still do it.
Yeah.
So that's the reality. We struggle, and it's okay to struggle. It's okay to struggle, and don't give up on yourself, and don't give and do your best not to give up on those around you who make errors. Far too often, many of us turn away from individuals because what happens is they let us down. When they let us down, we feel like they betrayed us, and they had no intention on betraying us or letting us down. It's they let themselves down as well, and
Right.
we have to be mindful of that. We have to be mindful that we're all human. This life is all growth. It's growth. We all growing. We all going through trials and tribulations to get better. Hopefully, our goal is to get better each and every day. And in order to happen, it's not like school. It's not like school. You get the chance to study before you take the test.
Nah,
It's life.
life
You have to take the test and then study later.
and
And I
study
got
later.
that from my wife. That's something I'm gonna give her. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
You have to mess around and you do it first. A lot of things, some things you can read in the book. You can read in the book and you can pursue it in that way. But most things in life, you got to go through trial and error in order to get yourself
And then
together.
when you're going through these trials and errors, and sometimes you can witness the trial and error and say, well, that's not for me. So you gotta make a good judgment call on that also. But when you do go to the trials and errors and you come up short, whose responsibility then is it when you made the choice to pursue that? If I tell you something good and say, "Look, do this, don't do that," do you later blame me for your shortcomings? Or do you blame yourself? What do I have to do with any of those shortcomings that you decide to do yourself that you pursue?
Absolutely,
You
absolutely.
understand? I mean,
Unfortunately,
if you're a kid and you're gonna put your hand in the fire, of course I'm gonna stop you. If you
right,
walking in the street and you're gonna go in the middle of the street and you're gonna get hit, I'm gonna pull you away from it. You understand? If
right.
I'm gonna verbally pull you away from saying, like, listen, you need to do this or you should do that, that's my advice to you from my experience. That's my advice to you. So you need to be cautious with your decisions. If you decide, be like, well, that was you, this is me. I'ma pursue this way. If you pursue that way and bad come out of it, or your shortcomings come out of it, why would you blame me for that?
And
You
if an
understand?
individual, yeah, and if an individual does blame another individual, they end up themselves not being able to correct that mistake. You know, plenty of times when we make errors, it's for us to realize that okay, we made that choice, and with choices come consequences or rewards.
Right,
Sometimes you're rewarded, sometimes you penalize. So if you get penalized, then you know it wasn't the right decision. But if you get rewarded most times, you know that it was the right decision and it wasn't harmful to anyone, you
right,
know? So,
right. Because as adults, as we get older, we make decisions. I never ever went and said from any decisions I made when I had my children, raising my family, I never blamed my mom or my father for anything. You understand?
right.
Because all I can remember them is telling me what not to do that I chose to do anyway. So I never threw anything like, well, y'all did this or you did it. Never ever. You understand? And it's like what's going on, and this is a serious topic that I want to get on because what's going on right now in Newark, New Jersey, the mayor Ross Barack has put in effect curfew.
No curfew?
Right? They put in effect the curfew.
Okay.
So this curfew,
Can't see you, brother. I hear you, but I can't see you.
somebody called me, man. Yeah,
They probably watching and
you
want
can
to say something. If you
you
want
can
to
hear me.
chime in, type it in. Type your questions, type whatever you want to say in, because this is us. You know what I mean? This is not just, for the two of us, it's for all of us. So anyone has something to say to add on, please add on. We welcome your opinions, we welcome your thoughts.
Right. So what happened is, he has a curfew in effect. This curfew is from everybody that's 18 and under. I'm 17 and under, right? So they
Right.
have to be in the house for a certain time. Okay. Uh, of course, this go in effect. I think June for the summer. It's
I
been in
still
play.
don't see you, brother.
You don't see me?
Nah, I still don't see you. I hear you, but I still don't see you. People
Hold on,
probably
man.
the people probably don't see you either. They hear you, but they don't see you either.
Hold on, brother.
Yeah, you were saying, he has something going on. Peace. Peace, peace.
You see me now?
Now see you.
All right. They don't want me to get this across. All right. So look, we have a curfew, right?
Right.
You have it did it again, right?
Yeah, you done blacked out again, brother.
It's
What's
crazy.
going on? What's up with the curfew, man? You don't supposed to talk about the curfew? I don't know what's up with the curfew. I don't know. I don't live in Newark, so I don't really know what's going on with the curfew. And like I said, people, any comments you want to make, please make them. Any suggestions you have, please do so, because this is about us, all of us. It's about uplifting humanity, and in order to uplift humanity, then we have to start with ourselves, each one of us. We have to start working on ourselves to make ourselves better, and then start working on our families to make our families better. And ultimately, then we start making our neighborhoods better, and then our cities, and then the states. You know, so that's what we have to start doing. You got to stop answering your phone, man, when people
Ladies
call
and
you.
gentlemen, we sorry for that interruption and that difficulty. You
Yeah,
know,
you know, people call you. You got what? You answer the phone?
nah, man, but when they it's somebody who's just spoiled as hell. Anyway, uh, you should know who that is. Anyway, yo, man. Anyway, it's a curfew that's set, right?
Right.
And this is for the younger people to be out and abroad after a certain hour.
So
Okay,
18 and under, if I
17 and
understand.
under. You know what I'm
17
saying?
and under.
17
17
and
and
under.
under.
A lot of
Okay.
people have, there's summer jobs and everything else, but what they're setting up is certain places that they'll be taken to if they do catch them in the street after that. Now,
And
this
what
is
is the and can I ask you, like, what's the time? What's the time?
I'm not sure on the time, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be no later than 10 o'clock.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, because the bodegas, they close about 9:30, 10 in Newark. You feel
Okay.
me? The majority of everything shuts down at 10 o'clock. So, and plus, you have some kids that's still traveling, getting young kids that has work that's getting back and forth, which now, even if it's later than that, probably have to be chaperoned or what have you.
All right.
This is an action that we're taking back um
Control of the community.
control. That's now he's making contribute to the community, helping the community. You understand?
He's making a executive decision
An executive decision to keep our kids out of the street,
to keep
back
them
into
safe.
the home,
To
like
keep
we
them
did.
safe. Hey,
Right.
remember it was a commercial used to come on. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know
Yeah,
where
and
your
do you know
children are?
where your children are,
Yeah,
right?
10
And then we
o'clock
had the
automatically.
lamp,
Yeah,
the light. If you was a certain age, especially in grammar school, that light come on at
you
7
got it.
o'clock,
You got to
6
get it in.
o'clock. It's
You got to
time to
get
go
in.
in the house. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? So he's implementing that. Now, my thing is like, this is a time, right, where we should implement that even if it's not a curfew. We need to implement that. Now, it could be difficult because a lot of, if you're a single parent, right? And and your kids is home while you're working and they're out in the street. But over here, they're gonna be penalized. Then you're gonna have DIFUS and you're gonna have all these people in your business. So it's best to communicate with your children to let them know that the responsibility that they have if they're being home by themselves or if they got to travel, they need to be chaperoned because this law applies. Now, when it comes to us, that doesn't have that. It's a time to start reflecting and say, hey, look at this over here. This is not something bad. This is something good. This is something for your guidance, for your safety, to eliminate you out of the mayhem that you might be innocent. Because too many kids that was out after the hours, unsupervised, got shot or in trouble, innocent, walking by into a crime or robbed, you know what I'm saying? Or just jumped or beat up or whatever have you, or being around the type of kids that's much older that's indulging in other things and activities that these ones shouldn't be indulging with. So you're eliminating that. You're eliminating that. This is a good thing. And communicating, it's a good thing that we need to start doing with them so they don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah, well, that part, keeping them out of harm's way, I definitely agree. With the DIFUS coming in, not so much with all that stuff. You know what I mean? Because that creates another headache and that kind of
Well,
stuff. But
so what's the
so
prevention from that?
so
The
right. So
prevention from
so
that.
so that this is what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, yeah, I mean that means if you have to work at night, hopefully one of your children is old enough, at least 18 or better, to watch the other ones. You know what I mean? Because if you got 14 and 12-year-olds there, what's going to happen? You know, if you got to work and you have nobody to watch them,
Well,
you know,
that's the upbringing too, brother. You know what I'm saying? Because I know we was young in the house, and when my mom's went to work, she had to go to work, and we all maintained. You know what I'm saying? We came
yeah.
in the house at a certain time, so it is communication. It is understanding. But if you don't explain the depth of it, like, listen, you get caught up in there, that's what you're doing, but this is what happens to me. This what happens to our family. This is about communicating the reality of where we at and what we deal with these policies and how America is and how the system is. We have to start explaining to them the ripple effect that one decision and desire could cause a whole triple effect on the rest of the tribe. So it's not just about what you want to go to, sneak out and do a party. This brings this people in, then there is no more party. There is nothing. This whole thing trickled down. There's no coming home, getting into your bed. There's none of that. This get taken away from you. We invite them in. So this is the community time we have to start communicating so they can understand these responsibilities. Not that they shouldn't come in. Because listen, if you don't have boundaries that affect us tremendously, we cross them. If your kid go out and he don't get a beating, what are you gonna do tomorrow? Look at the
Well, I
kids that
mean,
they don't get
but
no
then
beatings no
then
more.
then then diapers come in for that now. You know
They,
what
they
I'm
don't
saying? They
they
come in
don't
for
come
beating
because
your
they don't
children.
get no beatings no more. They can just
But
call and say I'm getting a beating.
yeah, but they say that now diapers say you can't beat your children. Your children can call diapers on you from beating them.
They can
But
call you diapers if you're not beating them.
you
That's how
know,
see
no, but
that's how we let the household and the communication, right? And we let that position switch out of the household. Whereas whatever went on in your house or whatever happened, you ain't had no kids going, well, I'm gonna call this, I'm gonna do this to my parents, to my family. You ain't
right.
had that. So now you gotta understand that communication gotta go back because now it's easily for them to come in and get into your business. It's very simple now. It's not even
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
don't even
yeah.
have it right now.
Yeah, well, when we start talking about that, you know you're gonna take me somewhere else. So I wanna stay on this. You know, you start taking me on the
Yeah,
state
well, you're
shit
gonna
when you
start
start
getting
talking.
into America. I know that.
Right, right. You bring that whole other part about being
That
sovereign out when you start talking about that because all that stuff that happened is based on jurisdiction. But I don't want to get off of what we're
right, but
dealing with.
even in that to say the soul, even if we were even you see this is
When
what we
we
gotta
get in
understand.
control, right? When
Even
we
if we are in control, we still gotta have laws and
No,
stuff
we're,
to
we're, we're
protect the
definitely
people.
gonna we're
And,
definitely gonna have laws, and
and
the thing is, we're gonna make the laws, so we're gonna be more mindful of who we're making the laws for, and it's gonna be for the best interest of the people, not the
right,
best
because
interest of the system. Where a lot of laws are being made now for the best interest of the system, it's going to be for the best interest of humanity as a whole, and we as a people will benefit from them laws. But yeah, I think it's a great idea, and I do think that at, we definitely need to have individuals stop being in the streets. Alaikum salam, my brother Earl. You know, we definitely want to get the children out of the streets and regain control. And that means when it comes to picking a significant other, you know what I mean? Because if you got a man and a man have children, it benefits him to choose a woman that don't mind being around his children and vice versa. Because at the end of the day, you don't want a person to be in your life that don't want to accept your
or
children.
don't want to even care about them. Be like,
Well,
that's your
that's
problem.
well. This is what I'm saying. This is a part of accepting. If you don't accept them, how the heck you gonna care about them? You don't even accept them. So the thing is, by accepting the children and being willing to be in their lives and make it a family, because I grew up with a stepfather, so I grew up in a two parents household, but I didn't have my biological father. I had my stepfather with me. So people make decisions to take on other families, and he did the best he could, based on who he was, and I accept that. And we need more of that now. Because we have individuals who get with another person, like a brother get with a young lady, have children, and now he has children by another woman. The one he lives with don't want to allow him to see those children, nor she don't want him to bring them over. That kind of stuff, we got to make that. We got to deal with that. That has to be dealt with, and that's on the individual, because the individual gets to choose who you want to be with. Blood over sex, I would say, blood should triumph all the time. However, it doesn't always do so, but I believe it should triumph. No one should keep you away from your children. And that I'm going on to say that it needs to be two parents, even if you can't be together, at least be able to co-parent for the best interest of the children. That's the key component that a lot of children are missing, not having both parents in their life, only having one parent. And once you have only one parent, that means there's another side of the family you don't even get to know. You know what I'm saying? That could be tremendously helpful to your upbringing.
Right, and
You
and
know?
and
Go ahead.
and the bickering that goes on, or the downfall, the image that you portray for the other individual. You know what I'm saying? I keep them away because of this, because of that. That child grows up with a lot of anger, a lot of
Animosity.
resentment, a lot
Right.
of animosity, resentment, and the emotional and stable mental
Emotional
illness that,
damage.
yeah, damages that he plays, like you said, he plays out in a whole different cipher. He plays it out in a whole different cipher. We have, when it comes to the children and communicating, and when it is a household that this is different. It's all communication from the very beginning. One spouse get bitter because the relationship don't work, like you said. After a while, the relationship don't work. I'm mad, you're mad, we split up. But we don't split up with understanding. We split up with anger. And when it's enough, if it's just two individuals, no damage is done. You ain't got to see each other. But if
Right.
it's a child involved, you can't split up with anger. You know what I'm saying? It
You
has
have
to
to,
come to understanding before you split up, not till you do damage and then you go back and say, "Well, look what we doing." You know what I'm saying? We got to know and understand that these damages take place now, and the kids live it out in the street every day. They be anger, they be mad, they
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 living
just
in pain. They living
they
in
don't give
pain.
no elders no respect. A lot of them, some of them do. And then they got to judge you. They got to see if you got
If
a
you live
street
what you
vibe.
say.
You know what I'm saying? They got to see how you vibing and how you moving. Then they'll give you that. If they feel they could dominate the situation, walk all over you because they've been raised by their grandparents and they don't listen to them, they bring it out in the street and they give you that same formula. You know what I'm saying? And that's because we are not allowing enough communication amongst us as a group to get together. When you tell us to sit down socially or go talk to somebody, go to a
Therapist.
therapist or go in counseling, we think that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? We think that's crazy, but it's like a neutral ground. We both can express ourselves and get that out and come to a conclusion because we got a whole of different things. So no holds bars. Whatever you feeling, you say it right here. You know what I'm saying? If you can do that in your own household amongst yourself without it getting so toxic, then so be it. But it's needed. It's needed. I remember when my kids was young, me and my wife used to get them around a table and tell them and talk to them and be like, how y'all feel about this and how you say about this and how you say about that. And we let them express themselves. You know what I'm saying? And then balance that. And then we used to balance that, like, yo, this is what this is, and this is why this is. And we used to balance that. But if we didn't allow them to express themselves, we wouldn't have knew them as well. They'd have been holding so much stuff in. You understand? We wouldn't have never know. Well, kids gonna hold something in regardless. You
Of
understand?
course.
You're never gonna know everything. You know what I'm saying? But you got to do the best they can so when they grow up and they come out into the world, they can function and their kids can function. You know what I'm saying? When you
Well,
have a situation where, okay, it's gonna be a curfew, or I'm telling you to stay in the house and you can't go out and you're not listening anyway, and now it's a state of a curfew. Now this applies to you and you're used to not listening anyway, and you go out and then a triple fell. Yeah, these people come in. If you happen to get picked up, these people come in and then it's the fault there, and then everybody's yelling because there's no communication. Nobody's taking a responsibility when there is communication. Nobody's listening. We have to start teaching them to listen, because it's a responsibility to your actions when you don't listen. It's a repercussion behind a situation when you don't listen to your parents, or you think you do know. And the way it's going right now, I don't feel like that's right, because online they said this, online they said this, my friend said this, my household different. Why we ain't like this? Why we ain't like that? I want that now, and so forth, man. We have to start really getting that understanding out and that communication, whereas we ain't so emotional prejudice against each other. You know what I'm saying? Because emotional prejudice is a serious thing. I don't want you to say what you're saying. I want to say what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, we definitely need, a lot of that behavior, as you said, came from households where some cases you were allowed to say anything you wanted to say, regardless, you know what I mean, regardless of anybody not correcting you. Sometimes you didn't have the opportunity to say anything. So you get people from different walks of life, different backgrounds based on their family dynamics. And these people come together. And these people come together, and now they're trying to navigate how to deal with each other. And for example, like if you got a person that grew up in the house and all they hear is cursing, that's all they know. They don't know, look, bitch, hoe, fuck you, this. That's all they know, because they haven't grew up around that. Then you grow up, then you have another person that grew up having to read, grew up pretty structured. So we got all different types of individuals. We're striving to put all of us together and be able to make our differences an asset to each other, where we come together and we start actually making each other better, rather than tearing each other down and turning away and degrading each other. Now we coming together to become an asset, not a liability, but to build and grow so that we can all become a stronger unit, because that's ultimately the goal. The goal is for all of us to do well so that no one feels like they're getting the short end of the stick. We grew up in a place where getting over and one the stronger dominating the other was a way of life. That's not our way of life. That's a way of life that was presented to us that we now have to reconstruct to our true way of life of being able to deal equally in all things.
So
That's our true way of life. That's who we are as a people, and many of us, hasn't either been introduced to it, or other of us have forgotten about it. So now, since we're still here, it's our obligation and duty to pass it to the next generation so that they can pass it down, so that we can truly make a difference for upcoming generations to come, so that we don't ever have to be in similar positions that we're in now and have been in the past. We get to a point where, as I was saying, we have our own, government. We have our own top 100 business companies. We have our own phone companies. We have our own technology companies. And we be able to interact with other heads of states from other countries, where we be able to do it, where we don't
yeah,
need
but
anyone else.
we would still listen. That's in the whole, bro. But we talking about the household where you have actions at right now. Like in the household, you have actions. What's going to make me prejudice against you giving me good advice? What's making me prejudice against that? Okay, so this is the household. We in the house. So in the house, if I tell you not to do so, why you can't take my advice? What make you so prejudiced against my advice?
And you know what does
when
that?
I
You
give
know
it?
what does that? A lot of times where we were, our parents were able to say, do as I say, not as I do. That's no longer the case. Children listen to what their parents say, and they also watch what they do. So when that prejudice come based on you told me one thing, but you did something else. You telling me not to do a certain thing, but you're doing it. You telling me to stay off of the internet, and you're on the internet. You telling me not to wear tight clothes, but you going out to a party with tight clothes on. So that kind of stuff. You telling me don't smoke weed, but
So
you
where do
sitting in
you
the house.
think? So where do you think the level of of them accepting the equalness, the equality from parent to child, whereas, well, you telling me that, but you doing it, so I'm doing this. I'm not doing that, but I'm doing this. So you can't tell me not to do this because you doing things you telling me not to do and you doing it. So you can't tell me not to do that. Where do that? See, that's the authority. Whereas a parent could do, they're gonna do things that the child cannot do. You're a child. You're not gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? The faults that I do in life, I don't want you to do those faults. You feel me? So if I say, if I go out here and be like, yo, let me go flip this, don't do this. I'm doing this. Now they gotta have an understanding of a structure. Now, this is what I want you to do. I'm doing this because this is what you can do. You're going to be in a different position of that. But if it's just be like, I'm going to be selfish, as I could do whatever I want to do. You're the child. You do what I tell you to do. And there's not an explanation of anything of why I'm doing that. If you're doing something that's totally chaotic, it shouldn't even be exposed to them.
Well, that's the key, and it may not. And
You
see
understand?
this, and this is the point. It may not be something that they feel is chaotic. It may be something that it's just a habit that they're used to doing. So they're not normally going to hide it because it's something that they're used to doing. I agree that it should, there are levels when it comes to children don't do the same thing that their adults do. And there's some things you want them to emulate, because if you're going to work and you're taking care of bills and you're being upright, you want them to emulate that. So we as parents have to find a balance of, okay, what do I express? What he's
We
saying?
have to go
Go
back to
back
the
to the
old
old
days
days.
where
Mama
mama
used to
used to
beat your
beat
butt.
you with the rolling pin and extension cord. But then again, laws have changed, so put yourself in a jeopardize to go to jail.
Right.
Now, it's like we laws change because it took a village to raise a kid. We don't
And it
have that
still
village.
do. And it
We don't
still
have
do.
that village no more. The laws that have always been there, but we just didn't allow the law in the village. It's like when back in the day, we can go back as far as when we did police our streets. We could go back as far when we did police our streets. We
Well,
can
okay.
even go back as far when in the 80s, in the early 80s, when we told fiends they couldn't steal nothing. You can't go in that house. You can't do that. And we'll snatch them up and be like, yo, you can't do that, bro. You got to do something else. You understand? So it's time that we took charge to police that village and to do that and enforce that type of culture, whereas it was handed down where they had to involve these people. But when the village becomes weak and the people could come in and get
I'll say
influenced
you're right.
and
Yeah.
and they could get influenced. Like right now, because of the type of influences we got going on. Like some people say, the lifestyles of past people being portrait as they doing good, but it's negative. You know what I'm saying? So if I see my icons rappers, if I'm young and I see the rappers coming on TV and they got all the bling on, and these are people I see right now and listen to, but they're portraying a negative aspect. Am I gonna get the moral of it at the end, or am I gonna get the excitement, the success, the glamour? I'm gonna catch that, but am I gonna get this moral at the end of the story? And when is the end of the story? If it's an episode going on and on and on and on, and it's in my face, and these are my rappers that I'm seeing, and I'm being influenced, and I'm a kid, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, yo, I want a way out because I don't want to work like this. I don't want to do like this. I don't want to do like this. This is how it is. This is reality. These are rappers. I see it. This ain't TV. This ain't entertainment. This is life. This is what I see. So this is what I dictate. You
So
understand? So
that's going back to the household like again.
well,
They
this
going
is
back
what
to
I'm
what they
saying.
see.
This is so. This is the household is very very important. How we express when we got time to bring these kids back in the house. When we start giving them a curfew and they're back in the house, don't let them run and just be on their gadgets. Don't act like you can't pay attention to your children and they got to be on gadgets all day because you don't want to be bothered with them. You know what I'm saying? You don't
Well,
really want to be.
and that's where it goes back to where I say you need more. Two people made the baby. You need two people, a man and a woman, to take care of the baby. What's happening a lot of times are there's normally the woman taking care of the baby and the men elsewhere making more babies in some cases. You know what I mean? Not a lot, not all cases, but there are too many cases where cats are making babies and just going on making more babies. And for women, you need to, for your best interest, if you know a man has a baby or babies, do not allow yourself to be the next one thinking that you have what it takes to change this individual. If he doesn't change prior to having a baby, he's going to lump you right in there with the rest of those women where he's not taking care of those children. We need more men to step up when it comes to that. At the end of the day, there are men who take care of their responsibilities, and we need you women not to be blocking the men who want to stand up and take care of their children. If the
Now,
relationship doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Do not hold the child hostage behind how you feel about the man because the child needs their fathers. You know, this is truly important. We got
and then
about 7 minutes. We got about seven
and then
minutes.
what happens to that child when he sees such resentment toward toward his father or toward the mother? You know what I'm saying? What happens to that child mentally then? What kind of conflicts and arguments come between those two individuals, male or female? That happens. Um,
Thank you, Earl.
Communication is definitely what we have to start to build to get this village back together like it was. We got to start giving them that. We got to start listening, understanding, and we have to start um, giving them the significance behind all the actions and the possibility that what decisions can reflect on. You understand? We're just saying no, you can't do this, or you're gonna end up like what's the name? Hold it. How did what's the name end up? What's the name might have been trying to feed his kids or anything else. There are examples you got to lay out in your own household. There are the way you have to explain something to your own child. You know your child personality. You know what your child thinking. If you don't know what your child thinking, if you don't know the child's personality, then you're lost. You're lost with that child. You have to pay attention. The children have to get off of the gadgets because the gadgets is definitely frequently shaping the
Yeah, yeah.
thoughts
You
and
definitely you definitely want to find time, some family time. Want to
right
find some
because
family
they
time
it's
to
shaping them, bro.
have one time should be family time is when you eating dinner. When you're eating dinner, there should be no gadgets at the table. We it's going to benefit us to go back to being able to eat dinner together. What if you're unable to do it every day of the week, at least try to do it one day a week. At least try to
Or
do that.
listen,
You know,
it's
or
like we live
make
in a
some time and don't and watch
we
shows together. Watch
well,
shows together.
we live in a time where the gadgets is, but is we explaining them to know to choose the right one that they should be being
Should be viewing.
engaging with,
Should be
and
viewing.
it might
Yeah,
attract them,
correctly.
but should you engage in this? You understand? You got to know that some things that you like and love ain't good for you.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier.
It ain't good for you
You know,
mentally as well
yeah.
as physically.
We have a tendency to gravitate towards things that are not good for us. Many
Well,
of
it's
us.
being influenced, so it's being influenced, so it's just like the curfew. Some people know it's the best thing for you. How do you explain that to your child? Then how do I apply my own curfew to my own children? How do I apply the curfew of the internet? Like, listen, you have a curfew. You have to do this. The much time you put that on, you read a book, read the text, the black and white in a book. Grab a book and read that just as much time you apply it over the gadget. I know you could read it online. I know you could do this, but you could also pick up the book and spend some time and focus on that. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
and
Balance
well,
it
that
out.
means you got to have the books there. You know, the proper books there for them to read. You know what I mean?
Inshallah. Inshallah.
So,
You know
so
what I'm saying?
that's the other part. Yeah.
But it's up to you to engage all these things, because what's happening is we losing communication and with each other. We losing the understanding how one feel because we won't allow them to speak and we won't listen. And also we're expressing ourselves too fast when we're too emotional when we see or read something. We instantly respond. Your kid come in the house and he be like, "Mom, this happened." Boom, boom, boom. If you're gonna be here to be like, "Go sit down. I'm gonna come talk to you later." Remember your mom used to say that? Go sit down. I'm gonna be in there later. She had to cool off
Right.
to approach the situation because now I'm mad at you. So I'm not addressing the situation. I'm addressing you. I have to address the situation also, in my opinion.
Well, we got about 3 minutes. Sometimes my mom would be the one that just explode right away. She wouldn't
Oh,
even take that time to calm down. She would explode. So I saw that. So I and this is another thing. We do have the ability to do opposite of what our parents do when we feel that is unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? We do have that ability. We don't necessarily have to keep something going because that's what we saw or that's what we learned. Anything you learn, you can unlearn. That's just the way life is. So we all have that ability to unlearn certain things that are detrimental to us being able to be the person or the people that we want to be. Go ahead, brother. We got
so
2 minutes.
we you think the spouses learn not to listen to each other?
I hear you. I hear you, Earl. Huh?
Where you think the spouses learn not to listen to
Well,
each other?
like I said, with the at home, you know what I mean. A
Or their
lot of
own
times
desire.
they grew
Don't
up.
gotta be at home. It can
You,
be influenced from other outside aspects also.
I mean, most times when you grew up, if you didn't see your parents communicate, or if you grew up in a single parent home, how do you know how to interact with another
Right.
individual
Well,
if you
yeah,
grew up
yeah,
in a
yeah.
single parent home? So now you're going, everything you're doing with another individual is a learning process because you never saw it. So you
Right.
can't duplicate something you didn't see. So now you got to take your imagination and say, well, this is what I think it should be. So now one of the things that we're gonna benefit us to go back to is strive to start staying together so our children can see two-parent households so they can emulate it when they leave the household. You
So
know,
we're not
we're
staying
down to
for the
like 15 minutes.
we're not staying for the trials and tribulations. We're
We're
abandoning
bouncing.
the situation before we get to the trials and tribulations.
Or as
We
soon as
out of the
one come up,
relationship.
as soon as something come up, we're bouncing because that's what's being the propaganda that's being pushed. The propaganda is being pushed like, chicks saying I'm the boss bitch, that kind of stuff. I don't need no man. All of that kind of stuff is being pushed to separate the family. and cat dudes are walking away. Look, I ain't got to put up with this. So at the end of the day, everybody's going the opposite way. You know, this one and that one. At the end of the day, it's going to take commitment, and it's going to take, you know, some determination, and it's going to take some unselfishness. You're going to have to be selfless in order to do it for the sake. Like in the past, parents stayed together to be an example for the children. Now people try to tell you, oh no, don't stay together for the children.
Yeah, that's the first thing they
you know
say. Get up out of the relationship.
Yeah. Now, if it's totally toxic, then
of course
you have no other choice.
Right.
But if it's things that you can work on and work through, do your best to stay there for the children, because the children would be better for it. And till Monday, wish you love, peace, and happiness.
Thanks
Assalamu
everybody for
alaikum.
tuning
And
in.
we thank you
Assalamu
all
alaikum, brothers.
for your time, for watching. And we'll see you all Monday. We really appreciate your time. We love you all. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum,
Wa alaikum salam.